The writers knew the engineers loved the ship. I mean, hey, I'm beating them off with a stick here. They're saying, "Are you single? You're so beautiful, you're so handsome and smart, and you're so bald. Are you taken? Sorry, miss. I'm married to a very special lady. I'm spoken for." The Dingwall is the only ship in range that can possibly close this Schrödinger possibility field. But we need to get close first. This could get a little rocky. It's a good thing we were able to update the shields to keep us safe, but the ship, not safe. It's changing. Wait! Abort! Abort! I want to keep this one! Let's just leave and keep it like this. Say hello to the new next generation. That's the name of this episode. The final episode of Lower Decks, Season 5, and final episode overall for the series. And say goodbye to Lower Decks. That's one hello, one goodbye. And I wish this was truly the new next generation. A long-held dream of mine to actually have the next generation. Maybe you've heard me say that. There's nothing like reviving an old show and actually coming back, winning people over, and then punching through and penetrating into the culture and becoming the next Star Trek. What do you know about Star Trek? I know there's Kirk and I know there's that bald guy. That's what everybody tells me in real life. That's what it means to be the next generation. Sadly, we're leaving the next generation, well, away, gone, in the dust, dying on the vine. You may have noticed overall in this entire season, Season 5, we're introducing a lot of concepts, a lot of new characters that were obviously supposed to be here for Season 6. Or maybe there's going to be a surprise announcement, therefore a new show, who knows. And that's the, quote, new next generation, and we're leaving our lower deckers behind. I don't know what it all means. Nobody said anything about a new show, but I really hope there's going to be one. You'll see how I feel in this entire episode. As I review it, it is bittersweet, like leaving your kid at the bus stop on their first day of school or something, except they're not going to school. They're going to the garbage can. This is the new next generation. Picking up right off the heels of our last episode, remember we transported a beam of absolute destruction into our reality that we need to stop. We need to get close to this fissure and close it up. We've been closing fissures this entire season. Well, 2 episodes maybe. You know how the background arc of this season has been basically backloaded into the final 2 episodes of the season. Like it or lump it. We're closing another fissure here. This isn't a normal fissure. This fissure is extremely powerful. It is the one fissure that can destroy this universe, because remember William Boimler in that other timeline sent the soliton beam thing through this one fissure, picked a reality. Better to destroy one reality than all realities, and he picked his own reality, as he is a duplicate of our Boimler. That was William Boimler. Our Boimler is Brad Boimler. The new beard Boimler. He's grown the beard. We're now growing the beard here. Sadly, in the last episode, a long time ago, as I've already mentioned Next Generation, when this first came out, Next Generation, you looked for the beard. If Riker had the beard, it was a good episode. And they used to say that then the show, quote unquote, grew the beard. Having put some space between me and the very beginning of Next Generation, I've realized it's not exactly true. There's actually some fun to be had in early Next Gen, and although the beard only showed up in Season 2, wow, one bad season, really? Forget it. Lower Decks is basically on the ball as soon as it starts in Season 1, in my opinion. Not unlike TOS. If I had to be honest with you, I'd say Lower Decks, not to get too sidetracked here, works pretty well right out of the gate up until the final season. It's a little shaky. It's a little shaky now. And our ships are shaky as we're getting close to this fissure. That being the Klingon ships. Relga, remember her? My 2 new favorite characters in the season, Ma and Malor, those 2 Klingons that we helped out in that fantastic episode, Farewell to Farms, they're back. But so are their enemies. Relga, her brothers were defeated by Malor and Ma, or maybe it was just Ma. She calls it murder. I don't know how all these things work. How do they work out when it's murder, when it's not honor, and when it's honor, it's not murder? I don't know how these things work out. Watch Farewell to Farms to see how they got out of their, sentencing, as it were. Relga is back, and her bird of prey is huge. It's a little bit bigger than normal, and has like a 2-wing structure, like a double wing. Very cool. To me, that was just enough. Chef's kiss. Just to make it a little bit different, a little bit special, because she is commanding this fleet, Relga's fleet. We find this fissure, tachyon buildup. Tachyons mean nothing to a bird of prey. Wrong, we know what tachyons mean, especially if you've seen what tachyons can do in Star Trek. Tachyon means time. Time changing is bad. Time change equals bad. I need that tattoo somewhere in my chest. You mess with time. Do you really want to do that? Remember back in Prodigy when they watched that video about like time travel mechanics, time travel 101? You're going to time travel. Are you sure you want to do that? It was something like that. Anyway, not to get off the track too much here, but our Klingons are being messed up by the radiation coming off of this fissure, our final fissure, and it alters the bird of prey to look like one from Discovery. Remember those very strange-looking different birds of prey? Were they birds of prey? I don't remember exactly what they called them. But it also alters one of the Klingons in the ship to look like a Discovery Klingon. As in, wow, are these Discovery Klingons actually from an alternate reality? Not so fast. It also appears that this wave can change you into alternate versions of yourself from the past. Just because you change into something from the past, since we know timelines are separate by time, like this timeline could be here and this one could be here, we could be in the past compared to them or in the future, and when you switch between them, you can still have the same past as the other one, right? So when you're altered to look like something from the other timeline, doesn't necessarily mean that visage of your character existed only in that timeline. So don't get your hopes up. If you were one of those people who really wanted Discovery to be an alternate timeline, I know what you're saying, but I don't think this is quite it. It's not quite the devastating reveal that we had in Tomorrow, when they just said World War III happened all these different times, and I don't know, it's supposed to happen in 90s, now it doesn't, blah, blah. Go watch it, Strange New Worlds. This is Lower Decks. Relga needed this attack from the fissure in order to blame the Federation to get some honor. We got to fight some bad guys, but Command says that the Federation are our allies, and this attack from this fissure is just enough to trick them. So this is kind of like one of those things where you pretend to get attacked. Reminds one of Star Trek 6. We've done this before, now we're doing it again. So Relga's happy that she was attacked. Very Klingon of you, although it's not very honorable, which is not Klingon at all. Meanwhile, our characters back on the Cerritos, we're seeing what was happening before the very end of the previous episode, where Boimler got that message on his pad from William Boimler. We're seeing Rutherford complain about his implant. Oh, my implant's fine. There's nothing wrong with the implant, I found out. It's just that these old systems on the Cerritos can't interact with it right. If we didn't have the world's oldest ship, my implant would be able to help. So you can see that Rutherford is getting angry with the ship and his implant. Rutherford is getting angry with the Cerritos this whole episode. And it would have been nice if that arc was not totally dumped on us in the final episode. It would have been cool to see Rutherford slowly hate the Cerritos over the course of this whole season, instead of in this last episode where it feels forced and contrived. They needed some emotional moment with Rutherford, and since all engineers are married to their ship first, believe me, I know, when you break up that relationship, it's a little bit of a tearjerker, but you should have done it over the whole season. If you've seen this episode, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. Boimler gets his message on his pad and freaks out. And honestly, the captain takes it pretty well. I was thinking the captain would be hard to convince. You're trying to tell me that an alternate reality version of you has sent a wave of energy to our reality that can destroy the whole thing if we don't get there first? Yes, that's what he's saying. And the captain actually believes it, so way to go. I noticed this entire series, Lower Decks, seems to handle command hierarchy pretty well. I was surprised by it. They seem to have a good relationship with their admirals, as long as you do not count Admiral Buenamigo. I think that's who it was back in the day, in the previous season, Wayne. Spoilers, who turned out to be blank. I'm not going to spoil it. Just watch the show. Anyway, the Enterprise is en route, but it's not going to be there. They do name drop Enterprise. We do see the Enterprise later. But Cerritos, in Star Trek fashion, is the only ship in range that can do something about it. I half expect Mariner to just say, of course, we're the only ship in range. It's just like that show Star Trek. And then Boimler says, Star Trek, what's that? And then Mariner says, oh, never mind. Let's just go all the way over the fourth wall. Why not? Sorry if I sound very negative. I'm just getting it all out there. This is my last chance to do it after all, unless I make another Lower Decks video. Who knows? Stay tuned. Wink, wink. We have to stop this fissure. We have to blast it with a gluonic beam. We're gluing it shut, as it were. And this fissure is surrounded by what's called a Schrödinger field. If you've seen TV at any point in your life, you've heard the word Schrödinger because it keeps coming up and up and up and up and up. Schrödinger. Sorry about saying it wrong. Schrödinger uncertainty field is surrounding the fissure, which when it hits us, if we're in its way, it'll alter our quantum state so that we've changed into another quantum reality version of ourselves momentarily. Wow, this sounds pretty crazy, and it does get pretty crazy. But there's some updates we can make to the ship. Engineering is saying we should be able to do this technobabble with the shield, and then it'll protect us but not the ship, because the ship will react with its duranium alloy with this new field to make it so the structure of the ship changes, but we stay the same, so we're not completely protected, but we should be able to survive. Will this work? We don't know. Technobabble, what can I say? So we go into this field. We need to blast through the Schrödinger waves, blast the inside of this with the gluonic beam, and hopefully not get blasted ourselves. That's 3 blasts. That's 3 too many. I don't need any blasts here. I'm glad from engineering to not have a blast. Thank you very much. But the Klingons are here. Uh-oh. Relga, our villain for this episode. Not the villain for the season, but just this episode. And I'm glad for not having a big mustache-twirling villain with a zillion ships on their side to really end the season off. I'm glad that it's a little bit something different. So I'll take the wins where I can get them. We're trying to get a win here, after all. I believe Ransom said that many episodes ago, as in a few weeks ago, in this season. Malor and Ma are seeking refuge on the Cerritos. They ran away from Relga. That's right. But it was Malor taking the controls. I love Malor. He's just, every scene he's in is just perfect for me. Am I alone in this? To see this goofball Klingon who is not like the other ones and reminds me of myself because I'm a little bit of a bit of a coward. That's why I stay in engineering. I stay away from the big deal stuff. I'm good, thank you. So I see eye to eye with Malor on this, and Malor took control of their little farming ship to get away from Relga to seek refuge on the Cerritos. But Relga is here to complain about it. Welcome to Star Trek. Welcome to Star Trek, everybody. Hey, listen, hero ship, Cerritos, Enterprise, Voyager, whatever you want to call it. You're harboring criminals. Hand them over. Oh no, debate time. We've seen this 100,000 times, but it's always good. That's the problem. It just works. It just works. Who are we going to give these people up to? Are we going to trust them or trust ourselves? We have instincts. Are we trusting them? But there's a problem. There's a little bit of a twist here. There's a little wrinkle in this story. Immediately, Admiral Freeman calls in and says, okay, you got to hand over Malor and Ma. Sorry, you got to hand it over. This is what we're doing. Bye. And the message is so quick. It's so precise and fake feeling. I'm just going to tell you right now because it's so freaking obvious. I knew this message was fake in 1 second. I'm not the captain. Freeman is. Carol, did that sound fake to you? Remember when this happened a long time ago in Strange New Worlds? Like 100 and some years ago? Remember that? Where they had fake videos of people? From Control or whatever? Do you remember that? When that happened? That was our timeline, right? Ostensibly, that was our timeline. Remember when that exact thing happened? Do we have any kind of fail-safe to determine if these messages are fake? No? We're just going to believe it? Carol is married to Admiral Freeman. She can't tell. If anyone was going to tell that there was something wrong here, it was either going to be her or Mariner. You think, oh yeah, I'm just married to this person. No biggie. I couldn't tell there was something wrong with the video. I don't know about that, but Carol is quick to trust it. They don't even ask, like, they mention, like, did command approve this? And then the video just cuts out and they don't wait for a response. I'm not handing anybody over until I see 10 different people from command saying this. I'm sorry, but this is a little bit much. It made me question Carol here. And she's usually pretty good in this show, but this was a little bit much. maybe you agree, I don't know. But we're, I guess, giving up Malor and Ma to Relga, although there's one problem. Malor is gone. We can't find Malor. Ransom chimes in and says, Malor walked off somewhere. Lucky for Malor and lucky for them, this message was fake, and now we got to find Malor. We have to smooth over things with Relga because we're trying to save the universe. So admittedly, the stakes are a little bit high, and we need to nip this in the bud right now before everything is destroyed. So I'll give Carol that. Maybe it's worth it to hand these two over immediately without question if it means saving the universe. I don't know. But back in Star Trek, we don't believe in a no-win scenario. It's all or nothing for us. We're saving the day, we're saving the people, and we're doing the impossible. We're the hero ship, and we make it happen. That's how we do it in Star Trek. So we're going to do it here, don't worry. Just you wait. Malor escapes, and he's just walking around somewhere. They get into an altercation between Boimler, Mariner, and Ma over the new pad that Boimler has in Cetacean Ops, because Boimler reveals that there was something about a Klingon refugee on the ship that Beckett Mariner hid. In his rage, Ma thinks that that's actually implying that could happen here, even though we're in alternate timelines. I can see being mad and making a bad decision in the heat of the moment. They get into a fight, which ends up onto the bridge, where Boimler heroically destroys the pad that he's been getting his notes from this entire season. He grew the beard. He doesn't need the pad anymore. Bang! I don't need that pad. We don't need to find out what that other Boimler did, because we're friends now and we're saving the day together. And I don't care what that other Beckett Mariner did. And no, I don't know where Malor is, because Ransom knows where Malor is. That's right, Ransom hid Malor. Now, call it insubordination, call it good instincts, but Ransom just bought the captain more time, because we are flying through the Schrödinger field. Did I mention we're being altered in shape and form by the Schrödinger field as we fly through it? We get transformed into a freedom class. Apparently, according to this show, you're a freedom class if you have one nacelle. My whole life, a ship can look the same as another ship, same configuration overall, different parts. Sorry, that's a different class. But now, in modern Trek, new Trek if you will, if you got two nacelles above the saucer, oh, you're a Constitution class. Awayshikan said it in Discovery, and then they're saying it again in Picard Season 3. Oh, it's a Constitution 3 class, quote-unquote. And we can change everything with the Excelsior class, and now it's an Excelsior 2 class. No, you can't. And no, the Cerritos is not a freedom class by virtue alone of having a one nacelle. I'm sorry. And I like my one nacelle ships. I'm crazy like that. I like spheres, I like one nacelles, whatever, so shoot me. But our Cerritos goes through a number of metamorphoses. Metamorphoses. Use the one you like. We get all sovereignty. If you remember way, way back when the Cerritos was nearly destroyed. I don't want it to be refit and to look all sovereign-y like. That's what Mariner says. She doesn't like the sovereign look. But they get the sovereign look and they just say, we'll take it. I remember that old Lower Decks episode. Did you? This episode, by the way, is loaded with references to the old Lower Decks episodes. If you've seen the final episode of Discovery, namely the first, the last, 20 minutes, 15 minutes of Discovery, the final episode, you would have seen the last section of this episode. They do the same thing. They have a reminiscence section. So this episode is loaded up with references to old Lower Deck stuff. But at the end, it's just a trip down memory lane. But we're still in the Schrödinger field. We're in a trip down quantum reality changing lane instead. We change to a Terran ship. Shaxs loves it. Buy the Prophets. Their weapons are amazing. Oh no, they're offline. Dang, Shaxs gets so few wins here. What is it with people at security/tactical on a bridge and just never getting the win? Have you noticed that? We never just let them go crazy. Now that I think about it, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you don't want tactical going crazy all the time. Maybe if tactical has to use the weapons a lot, that's a bad sign. We'll just leave it at that. So sorry, Shaxs, but maybe you'll get to detonate the warp core at a later date. Wink, wink. Say no more, nudge, nudge. We have to get close to this Schrödinger field core of this fissure to blast it with the gluonic beam. They can't get close enough. They have to destroy Relga's ship. Unfortunately, Relga is too much of a nuisance, and you're going to stop us from saving the world. We gave you the shield update, but we can take it away too. Ollie goes down to a shuttle bay somewhere. She goes to a flat platform on the Cerritos. Maybe it's that third shuttle bay on the engineering section, and she blasts it with a gigantic floppy lightning bolt. And I just love these new characters. They're gone now, though. She blasts it with the biggest lightning bolt she can blast it with, and this floppy lightning bolt lands on Relga's ship, disables the shield, and now they've given them the shield updates, and now we're taking it away. The big text gives, and the small text take it away, and Relga's ship is now fully taking the brunt of these Schrödinger waves, in which it changes such that the characters in Relga's ship turn into vicious proto-Klingons that I think we saw in TNG Genesis. Did we see Worf transform to that? Am I crazy? Am I hallucinating that? Anyway, Relga is lost, as was that Klingon ship that turned into a barge, like a sailing ship type thing. Sadly, Ransom says all lives lost, and I felt the loss too. Sailing ship, Klingon design, old barge. Is this that thing that B'Elanna was on in Voyager when they went to Grethor or something in that one moment in Voyager? Again, am I dreaming this up? I don't know. But that's just what came to mind. You know, you go to Tovakor, which is like their heaven, and then Grethor is like hell or something. And I think you take a sailing barge or something to Grethor. Is this the same exact boat? I don't know. I'll have to see at a later date. But needless to say, our Klingon ships changed into the Discovery version of the Klingon ship. That boat, and sadly not a D7. Thanks a lot, guys. You never changed into the coolest one, the original, the D7. I still love it. It can't be beat. Love the D7. Didn't see it here. Dr. T'Ana says, like, the ships aren't changing that much because they like to keep the fleet basically the same. They just like to having it look like a big bird. We all know that the Federation changes the ships so much because we're the Federation, and that's where we're going to spend the money behind the scenes in Star Trek, right? And we keep reusing the same old alien ships over and over again. Oh, it's another D'Deridex. Oh, it's another Bird of Prey. Great, because we can't afford to keep changing the alien ships that much. And to be frank, some of the new alien ships look pretty bad. So I'll take the old ones where I can get them. But I really wanted, speaking of old, the D7 from the original series. Oh, that would have been amazing. But I don't feel like complaining about the ships too much in this episode, because if you've listened to my review so far, we're doing pretty good on the ship front, let me just say. Relga is defeated, and we're getting close to this Schrödinger field thing, and Malor basically just says, listen, on my farm, sometimes there's water, and you can't stop it, but you can build a dam. And I think the point is that we cannot stop these waves coming out of this fissure, but we can force it to be permanently open. Mariner jumps back into back of the bridge, plays around with the console, and they shoot the fissure, stabilizing it, creating what I believe, without actually being said on screen, to be a stable wormhole to alternate realities. Deep Space Nine, we had a wormhole to another area of space. This one, we have a wormhole either to one or multiple realities. I don't know. That we'll leave that for season 6. Too soon? Aw, season 6. There won't be a season 6. We do save the day. We defeat Relka. We close that fissure, and all of our characters got something to do. Namely, Rutherford. Rutherford was falling out of love with the Cerritos. He was fighting with the Cerritos this entire episode, and T'Lyn and Tendi were fighting with each other. Rutherford's fighting with the ship. I think I'm falling out of love with the Cerritos, he says, quote unquote. And that hurt me. That hurt me at a deep personal level. I'm falling out of love with the Cerritos because the writers knew the engineers loved the ship. I mean, hey, I'm beating them off with a stick here. They're saying, are you single? You're so beautiful, you're so handsome and smart, and you're so bald. Are you taken? Sorry, miss. I'm married to a very special lady. I'm spoken for. She's called the Dingwall. Okay? So, sorry. And they kind of clued into that with this episode of Lower Decks. But at the very end, Rutherford has to do some engineering. I've never seen anyone engineer so fast. And he needs to mess around with the configuration in order to use the Schrödinger field to power the warp core. So in age-old Trek fashion, we're using the energy outside the ship to power our own warp core. We've seen it a million times. I think we just saw it in Picard Season 3. And we do that with this quantum uncertainty field, which is going to have some very disastrous effects. Although Rutherford is able to do it when he takes off his implant. And I don't know if I'm just stupid, but I kind of thought he needed that. I kind of thought like he couldn't take that off. Am I stupid? I don't know. Leave a like if I'm stupid. Leave a dislike if I'm also stupid. Because I think I'm just stupid. So basically, like or dislike however you feel. I don't know. Remember to subscribe as well. Rutherford saves the day without the implant. Very sappy, very cartoony. This is a cartoon. Oh wow, I didn't need the implant at all. Big whoop. We've seen this type of deal in so many different shows. Guess what, kids? He didn't need the special powers to save the day. Oh man. You guys must be particularly smart 13-year-olds to write this plot. But it was good, I'm not going to lie. Rutherford moves some chips around underneath the panel. Alters the Cerritos in the way I said he did. Although Tallinn and Tendi are now operating through trust solely alone with an alternate reality version of themselves, because the quantum position of the Cerritos is split into two, and now they have to trust their alternate reality version of themselves implicitly in order to save the day, because we need to work in unison. Teamwork, guys, teamwork. The whole season has been rife with it, and this episode is saved. The plot of this episode is saved by teamwork and taking out your implant and trusting in oneself and trusting in your instincts and trusting your gut, which is how we close this fissure. Our characters are all hunky-dory. Malor, Ollie, Ma, Mackler, Gorm, these characters that we barely knew, who were obviously supposed to be here for Season 6, but they're gone now. Like I said, we're dropping our kids off at school. Whoops, it's not school. We're dropping our kids off at the freaking garbage can. Goodbye, guys. We tow Starbase 80 because 80 cannot be interfered with by the quantum radiation coming off of this new wormhole. We tow the Starbase 80 to this wormhole as our base of operations on this end of the wormhole. What does this sound like? We're creating another Deep Space Nine. Could you have guessed that? That was not on my bingo card. Lower Decks, in its final episode, will set the stage for Deep Space Nine 2. And instead of going to another region of space, they're going to alternate realities. That is so obviously what Season 6 was supposed to be. Or it's so obvious, hopefully, what another animated show could be. They're leaving it up to us, I guess. They're leaving it up to fans to imagine it, and they're leaving it up to us to just buy things, to sell the idea of Lower Decks on people. It's not a mistake that we're getting to Season 5 and ending it. Discovery got to Season 5, ended it. What does that mean? This is probably the exact moment where a streaming show stops bringing in new people, and we're only servicing the people that are already subscribed. Thus, the show becomes pointless in the streaming model. I've been over this. It's kind of sad, but Season 5, you're out. But they set up a new show, I think. Deep Space Nine 2. And who's the captain of this new station? We're leaving Kassia in control of Starbase 80. Go watch episode Starbase 80. I liked it. Some people didn't. But who's in control of exploring on the other side of this wormhole, as it were? It's Carol Freeman and Admiral Freeman together on a new honeymoon, if you will, on their new Starbase 80. New Starbase 80. But they relish the challenge. And it's a beautiful victory for Carol. And I love to see them go. Because they're going on a new adventure on their new space station outside of this wormhole. And the Enterprise was there. The Enterprise is visible if you look closely. The Sovereign class, 1701, it is there outside this wormhole. I call it a wormhole, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. It could just be a You go into this gateway, and then you just choose a different reality to go to. It's a stable fissure between either two or an ambiguously high number of alternate realities, is what it is. And it does look very curious when you see it. It looks ornate and regal and like designed in a way that a wormhole does not. So we've set up our new Deep Space Nine. Who's the captain of the Cerritos? It's Ransom. Ransom was awesome this episode. He overpowered a Klingon. You overpowered a Klingon hand to hand. You're doing good in my book. Way to go, Ransom. 4 pips. You'll love to see it. Ransom is the captain of the Cerritos, and unfortunately, he's looking for a new first officer. And Mariner and Boimler both take each seat on either side of the Captain Ransom, and you're now like co-first officers, or you're fighting with each other over the first officer role. Would have been funny in another season, but we're not getting it. Sadly, why I didn't like it, that part. Our running theme now for Lower Decks is that we can't promote people, because we can't. We're all lower deckers. We're all at the same level, and it's very hard for us. It's very hard for these writers, not us, to promote somebody, because that means they're better than the other person. But we're mature. We know better than that. And it's okay when someone gets promoted, because the best person for the job should be promoted always. But we can't seem to do it here. We couldn't promote one over the other when it came to Tallinn and Tendi. So you have co-senior science officers. And we couldn't do it with Mariner or Boimler, because what I just said, they're supposed to be, who's first officer? I don't know, you can just both be first officer. No, you can't. I just watched Prodigy, and I had to put up with Dawnn not being the captain of the Protostar, or the U.S.S. Prodigy. Spoilers for that show. I can handle it. Lower deck watchers can't handle it. Sometimes somebody's just better than the other. Mariner is I was going to say a bit of a loose cannon, but she's still a lot of a loose cannon. Her final joke in this entire show is that she set her bed on fire. You're not first officer. It's Boimler. Sorry. I'm just sorry. It's just how it is. I don't make the rules here. If you are dangerous to yourself, you are dangerous to the crew. And if you're dangerous to the crew, you're dangerous to the ship. You're dangerous to the ship. You're also dangerous to the Federation. And worst of all, you're dangerous to alien civilians. Worst of all. That is the worst danger you can possibly be. And I still think, unfortunately, Mariner is, although she improved a lot. All of her characters improved a lot. And Boimler grew the beard. How better to improve than growing a beard, right? Grow your own today. Start. Doesn't matter who you are. Just plant some beard seeds. It's good. And Ransom says, engage the core. For his warp thing. Carol said, warp me. And now Ransom says, engage the core. Although, we're not going to have many chances to say that, because this is the end of Lower Decks, and that's the end of our episode. Plot-wise, it's very busy. We're seeing a lot of things going on. We start this episode needing to close this fissure, and we end by closing it. Kind of like what we were doing in the first episode. See, we're bookending it. The title is a little bit like the back cover. It rhymes. And when you do it like that, it makes one think that they've been on a complete adventure. Although the background arc of this, the plot of this season, as I said many times, is very backloaded. As is Rutherford's plot with not liking the Cerritos anymore. Where'd that come from? We just needed some extra drama for Rutherford. Oh no, Rutherford needs something to do. Quick, write in this plot that he's falling out of love with Cerritos. That should have started in episode 1 of this season, but it did not. All the characters were introduced. Sadly, they're gone. That's a theme of this season. Introducing things at the last moment too late, or too early and forgetting it. Not to waste your time, but to review this entire season. In short, I would say our standout episode for this season was Farewell to Farms. Number 2, Fully Dilated. Number 3, Fisher Quest. That's 3 Fs. This is a 3F plan here. Could we get a 4th F? I don't know. I'll have to look through the episode titles. Regardless, this season was pretty good. Our plot for this season wraps up in this final episode. And the plot for this season ramps up in the last 2 episodes. So plot-wise, we're winning. It's complex. It keeps you interested. You're invested in this episode. And the minute-to-minute action, like all good action, anything that happens changes what happens afterwards. Right? One Schrödinger field goes through us. That changes something. We see it go through the Klingon ship. That changes something. We defeat Relga. We use the Schrödinger field to defeat her. It all fits together. It's all a neatly packed little jigsaw puzzle. that ultimately, when we finish it, is a pretty interesting picture, if I might say. Although I'm not a big fan of this whole alternate reality stuff. If you are, maybe you're going to love this. Thematically, it's a real smorgasbord. You got teamwork. You got trusting implicitly in your alternate reality self, having faith in your own self, alternate self, trusting in your own abilities, taking off the implant, going it alone, going it bald, saving the day on one's own innate skill, trusting in your instincts, trusting that that message from Admiral Freeman was wrong and not real. Like I said, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet here. Sadly, there's not one thing that really comes through, but if I had to really guess, it would be about trusting the alternate universe version of you. Boimler does it with that pad, and Tendi and Tallinn are trusting in themselves and also their alternate versions of themselves. I think having an implicit trust in yourself and other versions of yourself is what we're seeing in this season. So if I had to guess, our primary theme for this episode should be that, although for me it didn't really land. It wasn't really hammered home too much. Not enough, I should say. So thematically, it's not a perfect win. Musically, it was all right. I heard a lot of interesting Klingon-type battle themes when we saw the Klingons in action, and a lot of a thumping, pulse-pounding soundtrack when we were going into the Schrödinger field. We got a Lower Decks theme here and there, but I could have used something brand new and original to keep the pace, to make me interested melodically in what's happening. And sadly, you didn't really get that. This was the time to really, if you're going to throw out the bad baby with the bathwater, do it now. It's the final episode, but no. Visually, the amount of ships we got here, I have to give it a 10 out of 10 visually. I mean, look, we're getting a one nacelled version of the Cerritos, the Terran Empire version of the Cerritos. We're getting the Klingon barge ship. We're seeing Sovereign classes. We're seeing all these different things. I think we saw a Miranda class. Man, if Eagle Moss were still around, they'd be having a field day trying to create all these models. Or maybe they wouldn't try to create them. I don't know. So thematically, it's all right. Music, it's all right. Plot-wise, good. And visually, it's a big win for me. With all those things out of the way, I'm going to have to go ahead and give this episode a very good, very solid 6.5. We're not quite better than Fisher Quest, and we're not quite at a 7. There's not a lot here for me to really chew on, and there's not a lot for me to remember, sadly. That's usually the things that usually can get you from 6.5 to a 7 with me. You'd know this if you've seen my reviews. That's just how I feel about Lower Decks Season 5 final episode 10, The New Next Generation. And sadly, the new Next Generation that we do see are just kind of left behind, because I don't think we're going to be seeing them anymore, sadly. We're not going to be seeing Starbase 80 Adventures, we're not going to be seeing Deep Space Nine 2, and we're not going to be seeing our new Lower Deckers on the Cerritos with Captain Ransom, sadly. Bittersweet. Normally, when something is bittersweet, it's because we're saying heartfelt goodbyes, but now it's like we're not saying goodbye, we're failing to say hello to the new people. We're just kind of leaving when the ball is rolling. So, I mean, call it bittersweet, but it's also kind of like, like sour sweet, or maybe it's like spicy sweet. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's a bad feeling in the mouth. It's a weird feeling in the mouth. Every synapse in my brain is firing off saying, spit this out. There's something wrong with how it ends. Discovery, although from what I've heard, Discovery Season 5, they wrote that season not really knowing halfway through if it was over, and then they changed it around in reshoots. This season does not end Lower Decks. Discovery Season 5, I thought, was a good end for Discovery. This is not a good end for Lower Decks in general. It sets up too much stuff and leaves it on the table. Maybe that's what they wanted. I don't know. I'm not psychic. I'm not in their head. Maybe they wanted us to take the ball forward. Here's some new stuff. Go crazy. I don't know. The fans have some wild imaginations. But I'm Lieutenant Mark, and that was the final episode of Lower Decks, The New Next Generation. I'm going to see you in the future before, I think, Star Trek Section 31 movie. I think I'm going to be reviewing that. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's awesome, but these trailers, I don't know about these trailers. The second trailer was a little better than the first one, but man, I don't know. We're going to be looking at that when it comes out. I want to do like a top 10 type best of video for Lower Decks. Those videos tend to perform for me. The Kirk one especially, not so much that Discovery one. And maybe I'm going to do something with, we're going to go back in the design room. I don't know. And then something else that I might leave a secret. I don't know. But it taps into what's been successful for this channel so far. It's not a good idea to constantly just go at hard into the paint with what was successful before, as in anything to do with Captain Kirk, because Star Trek is always changing. We have to move forward. We have to go to the new next generation. Maybe we're going to have that in the future. I have a dream, after all, that we're going to have another next generation moment in the future, where we get the cultural penetration, and people won't just say, I remember Kirk, I remember the bald guy. They're going to say, oh, I remember Kirk, the bald guy, and the next thing. What is that next thing? I don't know. Like I said before, I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you next time I see you, whenever that is. Signing out. Goodbye to Lower Decks. And goodbye to you.